Hi everybody, welcome to this video which is going to walk you through the steps to reset the Microsoft project Agile template so it's ready for first use for your project. I've just clicked on New and you can see the Backstage view here offers a number of templates, and we're going to select the Agile project management template. And we're just going to create with the start date of today. And there we got our custom report that gives us three basic views onto the project, and a couple of summary reports here as well. So the sprint report, this lists out the sprints that the team will work through over time. These are time box duration of work, as many of you be familiar with Agile will know. So the time box duration of work during which the team will work on selected items from the backlog. So the next view is the product backlog. So this is a list of typically the list of all of the requirements that the team will need to work through in order to complete the product. And then we've got the sprint backlog, which is effectively a subset of the product backlog. And these are the items that a team has selected to be worked on in this time box sprint here. So those are the three high level views that we've got. And also it gives us a sprint status, which shows what's in progress, what's been done on the current sprint, actual work, and then what's in the backlog. So we've got sprint number 1 here, that's being worked on, and these are the items that are in the backlog. Interestingly, the Microsoft project calls the backlog everything that isn't allocated to a sprint, so that's just something to be aware of. Different organizations have different views on that, but that's how Microsoft project organizes it. And this is effectively the remaining work to be done to complete the total workload or total hour estimation in this particular sprint. So it's sprint number 1. So a couple of differences here. You'll spot normally you'd measure the work required on the sprint backlog, on the stories in the sprint, in story points, and you go through that method of estimation. However, in project, the estimation is used in hours, and that's just another difference to be aware of. So if we want to come back to this particular summary reports, it's quite easy. It's click on report, it's under custom, and then it's Scrum template introduction. That's how you get back to this report. And then if we take a look at these three views here, so let's go and have a look at sprints. That lists out the sprints that are currently scheduled for this particular product. So we've got 2 sprints, a duration of 2 weeks, fairly typical. That's how I work in 2-week sprints, and it's got the start and end date. So we'll go back to the view. So we'll go back to that view. We'll have a look at the product backlog as well. And these, so as I mentioned previously, these are work items that are on the backlog. This isn't the totality of the product backlog. These are just the work items that haven't been allocated to the backlog. That's what's being shown in this particular view. So go back to reports, custom and Scrum template, and then we've got the sprint backlog, and that shows us what's been brought into sprints. You sprint number down here, and it's really a hybrid view. It shows you your sprints, it shows you your work items that are allocated to a sprint, and it shows you the work items that are also allocated to a backlog. And if we look in this template as well, if we go on to views and we look at the resource sheet, we can see that we've got a resource that's allocated to this particular Agile project as well. So we need to clear that down. So as we said, we'll go back to the start point. So we'll go to the Scrum template instructions. Now I've got myself a checklist here, which I'm going to work through. So I'm going to start with the sprint backlog view, and there's 6 steps for us to go through here. Then we go on to the project information, we go into the sprint view, and then we go into the resource sheet. So that's what we're going to do. Sprint backlog, we're going to do some work there. We're going to update the project information. We're going to just reset some of the sprints in the sprints view, look at the resource sheet, and then go through the process of saving that. So we've got a blank template. So let's have a look. So if we go back into sprint backlog, we're going to do a couple of things here. So we're going to, obviously, for our project, we don't want any progress. We've got 10 hours on there, so we'll just select all of these tasks. We'll go on to the task view here, and we can set the percentage complete to 0, and that gets rid of that particular time recording. So that's the first thing that we want to do. The next thing we want to do is to set all tasks to be in auto scheduled. We've got some auto and some manual schedules here, so I think you can see by the different colors. So we're going to, you can see these are scheduled that way, so we're just going to auto schedule everything. So that's brought in the sprint, so that starts automatically because there's no dependencies. So we've done that. And then we're going to change a couple of constraint types. We know there's a constraint there on that project, that particular task line. So we're going to go in and remove any of these changes. So we're going to go into information, and then we're going to go into advanced, and we're going to change the constraint type, and let's do that as soon as possible. And then we're going to change the task type to fixed work. There we go. So we've got that. So we've just done all of that and changed that, which is what we want to do. Then we want to change the sprint number for the items in the backlog. So at the moment, these are allocated to particular sprints. So we're just going to put these into backlog. So these work items are into backlog. And then we're just going to actually add in, the last point is to add in the sprint number as well. So if we add this in, so I'm going to insert a column. It's called number1. This is how Microsoft Project develops its Agile templates. And there you go. You can see from here, and we saw it previously when we looked through the initial setup of the project, you can see the sprints that these items have been allocated to. So no surprise, sprint 1's been allocated to sprint 1, sprint 2 to sprint 2. Now what we can see here though is these items have been allocated already to a sprint, and these are on backlog. We're already on backlog when we open the template. So these had an allocation of 0, these had an allocation of 1. So we just want to go back and unallocate these items to a sprint. So we'll just do that. So we've done that. So that's really, in terms of the sprint backlog view, we've gone and done all of the activities we want to do there to reset this template. We're now going to, as you would normally do, set the project start date. So we've got project information. We're going to set the start date to today's date, and then we will just save that. So that starts today. And then we're going to now go into the sprints view. So let's go back into that. So there we go, report, custom report, that one, and look at sprints. We want to go back and we want to manually schedule these because we do want them actually to be defined. They're time boxed start finish. There shouldn't be dependencies, obviously, other than sprint 2 starts after sprint 1. So we're just going to go in and manually schedule these just to make sure that when we start to enter things into this project, they don't change inadvertently. So we've just done that. We made those manually scheduled. And then, as I mentioned last time, in the introduction, I'm going to go on to views, and then we want to go onto the resource sheet. We've got Bob here, and we want to remove Bob from this project. So there we go. So we've just been through the process of resetting the template. You can save this as a blank template now and add your information to it. So you can see that we've got everything is in backlog at the moment. There's been no work on the current sprint. If we have a look at the sprints, yep, we've got these 2 sprints. If we have a look at the product backlog, everything now work item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can obviously rename them for your work items. You can look at that, but that's now been set to backlog. It's not allocated to a sprint number. And in terms of the sprint backlog, well, we've looked at that, and there's nothing allocated to the sprint either. So if we wanted to do that, we could then obviously allocate that, and then we would obviously want to potentially look at the dates for these particular sprints. So running Wednesday to Tuesday, we would want to start on the 6th potentially, so we could go in and do that. Where are we? Since in Wednesday, 6th of April. There you go. If that finished on the Tuesday, starts on the Wednesday, potentially you've got two sprints that run into that. So that's an interesting one. We can also show when these items are going to be allocated to a particular sprint. So I think that's useful, and so we can take it from there. So I think that's useful. Okay, so I've just moved my myself over to the back there, so that's good. So that's it. So we've allocated those to a sprint, and there we go. So that's resetting the sprint, the Agile project management template. We've had a look at the reports, and we can now save it so it's ready for first use. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it's been useful to you, and watch out for more videos coming soon. Thank you.